strip all football analysis down to its bone, not just the bone, to the bone marrow. And what you'll get is that our guys have to be more physical than their guys. At least that's how the coaches do it. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates, the other two teams in town that I hope you'll check out as well. Steelers versus Eagles is a 4:25 p.m. kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field, and it's not going to be any schedule gauntlet that'll beat the Steelers. It's not going to be any absurd discussion of a streak going back to 1965, as if that could be relevant between two teams that hardly ever see each other. It's not going to be anything that's narrative-based that'll beat the Steelers this weekend in Philadelphia, presuming they get beat. It'll be that physical thing. If we're being real here, if we're calling it like it is, if we're looking at both teams' strengths and weaknesses, and we're being in particular as objective as we can about the Philadelphia defense, we're talking about a really physical group. And we're talking about a team that's deployed something in that spirit for a long time now. That's been the basis, the foundation of how the Eagles have become an elite team in the National Football League in recent years. Andy Weidl comes here from that organization. Weidl was a big part of not only further instilling that thinking, but way more important, making sure that they were able to get players who match that. You can come up with all the great fancy ideas in the world. It doesn't matter if you don't find someone to actually go out there and do it for you. The Eagles' defense is loaded. It's especially loaded up front. The Eagles' offense, in its own way, is loaded, but it's especially loaded up front. That's where they win, right there on the lines. And that's no different than just a few years ago when Fletcher Cox was blowing David DeCastro off the ball all day long on that same field. Never happened to Dave before, never happened to him after, but it happened that day. And all of those guys on that line will tell you they'd never faced anything like that. So if you're the Steelers, what do you do about that? Do you look over at the Eagles with, your jaw dropped and say, oh, wow, they're 11-2 and we're just a measly 10-3 and we're no match for them? No, of course not. Do you plot ways around it? Yeah, kind of, to an extent, but the Steelers aren't exactly overloaded with finesse now, are they? You know what you do? You just got to line up and go. You got to line up and hit them in the mouth. They hit you, you hit back. Or you hit them, they hit back. This is scholastic level football. It's great that Mike Tomlin made the joke the other day, by the way, about the Steelers representing the WPIAL and the Pittsburgh City League in facing the city at the far end, and how maybe the Steelers and Eagles should have met up in Breezewood, which is for those of you who aren't familiar with our state, a famed hotel spot that's pretty much dead center on the map. But this just happens to be coincidence. They're not rivals. As I mentioned, they don't even see each other. But they're now built similarly, except that the Eagles have been built this way for longer than the Steelers have. And it's probably that and that alone that has me feeling skeptical about the Steelers' chances on a given weekend for the first time in a while. Right? Like, I mean, for those of you who listen to the show regularly, I don't remember another week where I said, this one doesn't look good at all. But I don't think it does, because I've not really seen a hard example over these first 12 games that the Steelers have had. And again, full credit to them. I mean, 9-3 is 9-3. It's great. Awesome. Way to go. But I've not seen them just flat out punch somebody in the mouth. It doesn't have to be on a scoreboard. It can be right there. it can be just, overwhelming them. There was maybe a half of that in Denver, another half here or there, but just lining up and saying, we're going to knock you out. Somebody's going to have to step up and do that. Somebody's going to have to be the aggressor from the Steelers' perspective. It's not to say they don't have guys. Cam Hayward's been mauling people. And Landon Roberts is the guy you want in a game like this. Landon's just going to go get people. He couldn't care less what your reputation is or what helmet you're wearing. TJ, are there enough of those on defense? I don't know. Are there enough of those on offense? I don't know. I love hearing Mason McCormick described as a junkyard dog type. I love seeing what's become of Zach Frazier. I really love, for a whole bunch of reasons, the last couple of games we've seen from Broderick Jones. He's looked nasty out there. But do you see that offense as being the type that's just going to pull through everybody? No, they try it all the time. They seldom succeed, at least not until the fourth quarter. Who's going to do that? Who's going to want that? I'll tell you what, I liked hearing this out of Patrick Queen yesterday after practice when he was asked if these were the types of games that he came here from Baltimore to play in. And you know what that question is. It's a symbolic question.
That's why I'm in the league, period. I think when you sign up to play football, you want to play at the highest level. And I don't think you don't love the sport if you don't look at it that way. So, this game, I love this game. I love to play the game the right way. And I think these next few games are going to show that, but it starts with the Eagles.
Yeah, go to it, dude. Go to it. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Felix, who says, "Hey, DK, you've often made the point that Mike Tomlin does not prioritize longer-term success within a season over simply winning the next game." Well, now with the Steelers apparently leaving George Pickens out of the game in Philadelphia, and maybe even if you look back, the rather risky decision regarding Russell Wilson earlier on, is Tomlin moving away from that pattern? And if it's yes, might the reason be that he sees a more realistic chance to win it all? The easiest, laziest answer I can give you is I can't get in the guy's head. I'm not going to be in a great position to read his mind. But that's not why questions like this get asked, right? I believe that Tomlin has bought in first and foremost on the idea that there's no such thing as success without getting somewhere, anywhere in the playoffs. That's now become a very real albatross across the entire franchise. It's just been way too long to not even run into an accidental playoff win somewhere along the line. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that too, because it's the kind of games where you think you're about to have a really tough matchup in the playoffs and the other team's quarterback wakes up and, his ankle is bent or something, and you have to face the backup and you get away with it. And nobody remembers that. They just remember that you won the playoff game and you advanced. They haven't even had one of those. And it's just been something that overrides everything else come January of every year of late. 11-0 start didn't mean a thing. Didn't get anywhere in the playoffs. Sneak in, backdoor, this or that. Somebody wins some kind of game in Jacksonville that they were never supposed to win, and it gets you in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's become cumulative. So I'll start there with my hypothetical response. I also happen to believe, and I never believed it more than when Tomlin made his decision to insert Russ over a healthy and 4-2 Justin Fields. And Tomlin himself made the remark that the goal is to be great. The goal is to try to be great. And even though he did put the Steelers at risk, some risk anyway, in those 2 games against the 2 New Jersey teams, it wasn't a huge risk because both of those teams are obviously awful, but there was some risk there. And it was one that he felt was worth making because, as he said, this part doesn't require any sort of ESP. He'd seen the other guy. He now wants to see this guy. Well, he saw, and he knew instantly that he was right. So is there some of that? Yeah, he sees what's happening and he begins to believe in the team and everything. I think so. I think so. I think there's an understanding that while this isn't a perfect process, it's certainly not a perfect roster. I do know that he very, very much believes in results in stadium, as he likes to say. And when he sees all of the various good things, the punters and the kickers and the field goal blockers and everybody contributing, Scotty Miller as your lead wide receiver on the first Sunday that you're without George Pickens, yeah, he's very much that guy. He's got that sentimental streak to him. Hope I did okay there. Those are tough ones. But I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.